In the quietest moment of the night, under the moon shining in the cool desert sky, the mighty sheikhs whispered your name like a secret. They, the guardians of ancient wisdom, spoke of your identity in this meeting under the stars. Write 222 in the comments now, because they know that you are no ordinary traveler. You are the chosen one. Your name is a message that spreads far and wide on the wind of night. Now the time has come. Time to break the chains of the past and claim the legacy of the ancestors. Tonight, while everyone else sleeps, the paths of your destiny are being drawn. Your name is not just a name, it is the beginning of your calling, your ascension, and an endless journey. Rise up now and embrace this call. Life is a little like planting seeds under a sky that looks empty, not knowing that just beneath the soil, a whole harvest is already stirring. For years, in the hidden places, some folks thought they could dig up your roots by covering the ground with rocks of jealousy and fences of gossip. They gathered in the back rooms, passing secret notes, convinced that a well-placed rumor or a clever plan could keep you from ever breaking through to the sun. They didn't see that the ground they tried to harden was the same ground where your faith was quietly taking hold, deeper than they could reach. Sometimes, when a neighborhood or a crowd is held together by envy and secret agendas, it's like watching a choir singing the wrong song. Every voice trying to drown out the solo meant for you. They made blueprints out of their own insecurity, pouring energy into plotting, mapping out detours in your journey, and placing stumbling blocks where there should have been bridges. But what they didn't understand is that destiny is not something you can erase with a meeting or silence with a committee. The lines were already drawn in the spirit, long before the first whisper made its way around the circle. It's as if they thought they could build a dam against a river that's been flowing for generations. They used every trick in the book: shadowy deals, cryptic group messages, alliances built on convenience, all in the name of stopping what heaven had already ordained. They stitched together a patchwork of half-truths, convinced it would be enough to cover your light. Yet with every new attempt, they failed to notice the water quietly building behind their barrier, gaining strength with every delay. The satisfaction they found in their own echo chambers was temporary, a hollow applause in an empty theater. For every smug message, every shared laugh at your expense, they were laying a trail. Digital breadcrumbs, receipts, and records that would one day become the very evidence of their undoing. What started as victory dances behind closed doors is turning into a paper trail that leads them straight to the doorstep of accountability. In the divine order of things, no effort poured into envy goes without a harvest. The scales of justice might tip slowly, but they never miss a beat. Those who believed they were architects of your downfall wake up to discover they were only pouring the foundation for your comeback. The same plans that were meant to be a snare for your feet become the stepping stones that lift you higher. Their private plots, once sources of power, now weigh heavy on their own shoulders, each misdeed demanding repayment with interest. And through it all, you become like a lighthouse on the coast, steady through the storms, shining the way, no matter how thick the fog of opposition gets. People start to notice that you didn't just survive their sabotage, you grew because of it. Your story travels farther than their schemes ever could, lighting a path for others who feel boxed in by the jealousy or smallness of those around them. The roots of destiny run too deep for shallow schemes to uproot. The quiet prayers whispered on sleepless nights, the moments of choosing grace over retaliation, the steady walk through misunderstanding, All of it gathers into a tidal wave that eventually sweeps away every obstacle. What looked like defeat was really just a season of waiting, preparing the ground for a greater harvest. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the Super Thank You button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. There comes a time when even the most stubborn doubters must admit the truth. The blueprint they followed wasn't strong enough to rewrite the story heaven had for you. In the end, the only plans that last are the ones drawn with faith, humility, and hope. And while the world may keep plotting in shadows, the chosen ones rise in the light, rooted in a promise that can't be shaken. Because what's built on truth is always destined to stand when everything else falls away. So now, as the tables turn, let the story be told. There is no amount of jealousy, scheming, or backroom plotting that can hold back what God has sown in good ground. The evidence of every misstep, every hidden alliance, becomes the very reason you ascend. And the lesson rings clear, especially for anyone who's ever been counted out. What was meant to stop you is what will announce you. And those who tried to bury your legacy are now the ones who water the seeds of your next victory. Think of a garden after the rain. When seeds sprout up, no matter how many stones were scattered by jealous hands. Some people, hungry for control, try to plant weeds in your field. They move quietly, acting like chess players, sliding their pawns close to your home, your work, even your places of rest. It's almost like they think being near you gives them the right to peek behind the curtain, to gather little crumbs and report back to those hoping to rewrite your story. You greet them at the coffee pot, nod in the hallway, maybe even share a joke, never knowing that every smile might carry a secret agenda meant for someone else's ears. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. Whispers drift like dandelion seeds on the wind, landing in offices, slipping under doors, settling into the corners of neighborhood gatherings. Someone passes your name around as if it's a rumor to be traded, trying to darken your shine with words that don't belong to your spirit. They stitch together stories and spin them like webs, hoping to catch anyone who wanders too close to the warmth you carry. But what these plotters never learned is that labels sewn by human hands can't stick to a heart that's been marked by a greater grace. They can call you every name in the book, but when God writes protected over your life, no rumor, no accusation, no secret file can undo that truth. Every workplace, every block party, every ride to the grocery store, they tried to turn it into a stage for their drama, thinking you'd get tangled in their games. They mistook your patience for helplessness, your kindness for naivety, never seeing that you were anchored by something far stronger than their shifting alliances. Like a tree, with roots deep enough to drink from rivers unseen, you were nourished by hope they couldn't touch. They threw shade. You grew branches. They sowed doubt. You bloomed in the sunlight anyway. Their sabotage was like tossing pebbles at a mountain, making noise but leaving no mark. The more they plotted, the more obvious it became that they couldn't shake your foundation. Even when they rotated through new faces, changed tactics, or tried to spread their narrative with fresh voices, Their efforts faded like chalk drawings after the rain. People started to notice the pattern, to wonder why so much energy was being spent on bringing you down. The truth is, a spirit covered in divine favor turns every attack into fertilizer, every rumor into a stepping stone. And while they tried to keep doors closed to you, new ones kept swinging open, each one lined with welcome and possibility. That's what happens when the shield around you isn't made by human hands, but is forged in the fires of faith and resilience. You were covered long before the schemes began. You were protected while others were still plotting. Your name was cleared in the courts of heaven before anyone tried to stain it on earth. Through it all, your light was not just preserved, it was magnified. Every time someone turned away because of a lie, someone else turned toward you, drawn by a presence they couldn't explain. Grace clung to you like morning dew, impossible to brush away. You became the testimony that a good heart, kept steady and true, outlasts every false witness. So let this be a living lesson. No matter who lines up their chess pieces against you, no matter how many meetings are held in secret, no matter what reports are whispered behind your back, you are wrapped in something untouchable. The garden of your destiny will grow, no matter how many weeds they plant, and the very ones who tried to choke out your harvest will soon see you thriving, surrounded by blessings that no hand but God's can give. Just like a tree that bends but never breaks beneath the storm, there's a mysterious resilience that rises in the soul of someone truly called. Every time the winds howl and the thunder rages, that tree drives its roots deeper, drawing strength from hidden streams no drought can touch. In the same way, every story spun to scar you, each threat murmured in the shadows, every misstep they tried to cloak as accident became another test for your spiritual roots, one that only made your foundation more unshakable. It's almost as if every negative word hurled your way was a shovel of dirt that helped bury what no longer served you, while at the very same time, it fertilized new strength that others couldn't see. The more they tried to loosen your grip, the more you held to a rock-solid certainty that their schemes would never outlast your faith. When the accusations flew, instead of letting the arrows pierce your heart, you began to notice something. Your eyes opened wider, your spirit started seeing through the disguise, and your inner alarms rang out before danger could even cross the threshold. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the super thank you button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. Where others would have buckled under the weight of so much opposition, you found yourself standing taller. You realized that discernment, once just a gentle nudge, had become as sharp as a hawk circling above, able to spot a trap or a lie from far off. The intuition God placed inside you grew louder with every failed attack, warning you not just of threats, but also guiding you toward the right people and the right places. Instead of being battered and bruised, you became spiritually armored, clothed in a wisdom that doesn't come from books or classrooms, but from walking through fire and finding God still with you. Every trial, every attempt to trip you up became a lesson in the curriculum of destiny. The spiritual covering around you became more obvious with each failed plot. You could almost feel it, like an invisible shield that turned their intentions into your insight and their obstacles into your stepping stones. People looked at your journey and saw only the attacks, never realizing that every blow meant to break you was actually molding you into someone who could not be shaken. Their campaign of sabotage was supposed to scatter you, but it only helped gather your power piece by piece. Those warning bells you hear before trouble knocks, that's your spirit's way of keeping you a step ahead, proof that you're not walking alone. Where pain was meant to define your limits, you discovered it was actually your signal to dig deeper, listen closer, and draw from that well of wisdom that only grows with adversity. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. What was sent to destroy your confidence became the very thing that confirmed your calling. Instead of shrinking, your soul expanded, more certain, more compassionate, more alive. You started to see every setback as a setup for something bigger. And the people who watched from the sidelines expecting you to fall witnessed something they couldn't explain. A radiance, a joy, a strength that had no earthly source. You knew deep down that it wasn't just you getting stronger, it was a greater hand upholding you, shielding you from what you couldn't see, and turning every attempted curse into a crown. So as you look back on the stories, the threats, the failed traps, let them serve as reminders, not just that you made it, but that you were never alone, not for 1 minute. The unseen covering over your life is proof that some are chosen not because they're tougher, but because they're meant to show the world what grace under fire really looks like. When your roots grow deeper with every storm, it's just confirmation that your destiny was always set in soil no storm could uproot. Imagine a lighthouse battered by wave after wave. No matter how furious the storm or how often the sea hurls its salt and foam, that light keeps shining, unmoved, marking the way for lost ships and guiding them home. That's what it's like when a chosen soul stands firm in the current of spiritual attack. Their rituals, their bitter words, all the curses conjured in shadowed corners. They struck like waves against the lighthouse, loud and showy, but powerless to snuff out the flame set by God Himself. Every time a curse was sent your way, it came up against a boundary it could not cross. What they meant as a final blow landed with no lasting mark, as if they were throwing pebbles into a mighty river. The water may have rippled, the surface might have changed for a moment, but the current below just kept moving, swift and determined, following a course no human hand could alter. There's a grace at work in your journey that can't be shaken by outside noise. Those closed doors they celebrated, thinking they had locked you out for good, were simply nudges from above, divine signs pushing you to knock elsewhere, where welcome mats were already waiting. Each attempt to sideline you, every scheme meant to box you in, ended up sending you in a direction that sped up your destiny. It's as if God Himself was using their resistance as a slingshot, launching you farther and faster than you ever could have gone on your own. Where others would have been discouraged, you found yourself rising with a fresh wind at your back. You noticed opportunities appearing where there were once only obstacles. The things you thought were lost forever began arriving in bunches, goodness showing up, not as a slow drip, but as a sudden downpour. The favor that was withheld by jealous hands began to show up in the most unlikely places, delivered by people you never even knew were watching. Blessings that were held back are now arriving so quickly it almost feels overwhelming, like trying to catch raindrops in your hands during a summer storm. And every single one is a reminder that you were never waiting in vain. While others were busy rehearsing your downfall, heaven was orchestrating your comeback. Their attempts to divert your river only made it carve a new path, wider and deeper, carrying you toward shores you couldn't even dream up for yourself. Every curse they tried to plant has become fertilizer for your favor. Every ritual they performed was powerless against the purpose God wrote into your bones before you were born. Instead of breaking you, their opposition refined you, like gold in the refiner's fire, brighter after every trial. And now, with every blessing that lands at your door, you know, nothing can block what is divinely appointed. Doors they slammed were just God's way of pointing you to gates already swinging open. The more they tried to write you out, the bolder your story became. So when you look back at all they tried to do, let it fill you with gratitude, not resentment. Because the very forces that tried to hold you under became the waves that lifted you higher. And in every storm, your light stands taller, shining as proof that divine protection isn't just a promise. It's the reality that guides you, rain or shine, every step of the way. It's a strange thing how a fortress built from sand always looks strong until the tide comes in. One wave at a time, that foundation gets washed away. In the story of those who set themselves against a soul marked for greater things, this is exactly how their grand alliance began to crumble. They tried to build walls high enough to hide their actions, thinking their secrets could outlast the sunlight. But the tide of truth moves with its own rhythm, and no matter how hard they packed that sand, it couldn't withstand the pressure forever. As days turned to weeks, the cracks inside their camp grew too wide to ignore. Suspicion replaced trust, and the hush of whispered deals grew into the roar of blame. The burdens they carried, the hidden wrongdoing, the small betrayals started to spill out, unraveling their plans like an old sweater caught on a nail. The laws they thought they'd sidestepped circled back with receipts. The regulations they laughed at began to show their teeth. One by one, the tools of their mischief became monuments to their undoing. Cars once used to shadow your steps now sat idle, rust gathering on empty dashboards. Workplaces that once sheltered them posted "Help Wanted" signs, their former presence scrubbed from every record. People who once shook hands in secrecy now looked over their shoulders, grasping for an exit from a storm they created. Their shared mission became a string of sinking ships, and every new wave of exposure left fewer places to hide. For every sly smile they wore as you stumbled, a tally grew behind closed doors, losses mounting, accountability tightening like a belt with one more notch. The coalition that seemed unstoppable was revealed for what it was, a patchwork held together by fear and self-interest, never strong enough to survive the day when truth rose like the morning sun. There was a time when each day felt like crossing a minefield, always alert, always second-guessing where to step. You tiptoed through conversations, watched over your shoulder, never sure if a friend was really a friend or just another mask in the parade of suspicion. But just like spring can turn the hardest winter on its head, a new energy began to enter your world. The same streets that once felt hostile became places where laughter echoed again. People you never expected showed up, not with judgment, but with open hands and hearts that wanted to lift you up. Their encouragement wasn't empty talk. It was a foundation, solid and true, a sign that the season of struggle had finally met its match. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to his plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially far beyond your expectations. Remember, his protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of his divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as his mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed, and let the light of the Lord guide your path. Opportunities that seemed locked behind iron gates swung open with surprising ease. It was as if someone had finally remembered your name in rooms you never even knew existed. Invitations arrived, sometimes quietly, sometimes as bold as a trumpet. The offers that passed you by before began to stop at your door, and doors that had always stayed shut before cracked wide to let you in. The current of support picked up, swift and undeniable, carrying you past places where you once stalled. Resources flowed: money, wisdom, guidance, kindness, and each new connection wove another thread into the safety net under your feet. Where you once planted dreams in shallow dirt, you found yourself building on bedrock. The ground beneath you grew firmer with every step, until the fear of falling was just a memory. New relationships replaced old anxieties, and instead of waiting for the next crisis, you began to look forward to the next breakthrough. Struggles that seemed immovable melted away, fading like morning fog under a rising sun. Each blessing arrived not just as a gift, but as a promise, a clear message that you were finally living in the good of what you'd prayed for. Life began to take shape in ways you hadn't dared imagine. Your faith, once stretched thin, was now the engine of your abundance. The very places where you used to hold your breath became playgrounds for new dreams. What had once been survival became creation, and your existence blossomed into a testimony for anyone who ever doubted that a new season could really come. In every fresh possibility, you saw proof that patience pays off, and the long drought can't last forever. The storm that brought the rain was only the beginning. The real story was in the growth that followed, and the bright, unstoppable harvest that's now yours to gather. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. Where scarcity once shadowed your steps, the tables have turned. Every missed opportunity, every dollar stolen by rumor or delay, returns as abundance that cannot be blocked. Investments multiply, comforts expand, and the markers of progress become visible even to those who doubted. What felt impossible now feels inevitable. Meanwhile, those who plotted your failure struggled to keep up with the cost of their choices, their fortunes slipping away as quickly as yours expand. Old friends and relatives who once turned away may return, seeking reconciliation. But your boundaries are stronger now. No longer do you feel obligated by shared history or familiar blood. The circle tightens to include only those who proved steadfast, while the rest are gently let go. Their season in your story finished. This isn't vengeance for its own sake. It is the order of things restored. The secrets, messages, and plans that once played out in shadows have come to light, with those responsible facing the consequences of their own hands. Leaders are held to account, accomplices exposed, and justice moves forward, sometimes quietly, but always steadily. Through it all, you stand as living proof that endurance, faith, and integrity are never wasted. Your experience is becoming a model for others, a testimony not just of endurance, but of strategy and spiritual wisdom. Communities and groups look to your journey as a guide for overcoming adversity, detecting hidden opposition, and holding fast to purpose in storms of doubt. You're not just a survivor, you're a teacher, a light for those yet to step into their own battles. Where you were once chased, you are now celebrated. Where you were once silenced, your story is shared. Each obstacle, each betrayal, each hard-earned victory becomes part of a greater lesson, not just for you, but for everyone seeking proof that divine justice does, in fact, prevail. What was once an attempt to bury your light has become the fuel for your brightest chapter yet, and the world is watching as you rise, unapologetic, undeniable, and unstoppable.